Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my first breakdown of one of my matches. I'm breaking down my match versus Javad Mahjoub from Tristar. This match took place in February of 2020 at the Parabellum Quintet event. This was a really fun match for me. I think a really fun match of the day. Um, you know, just a little bit of context here. This was a 5-on-5 team match. Detroit Jiu-Jitsu versus um, TriStar. And then there was two other teams on the other side of the bracket. Cicero Costa versus 10th Planet. The team winners of those matches fought each other for the finals. And this is just the semifinal matchup between Detroit Jiu-Jitsu and TriStar. Um, so this was the third match of that team matchup, and this was me versus Javad. Javad had just won his match previously, and so it was my turn to go up against him. Which is something that I really like to do. I really like to fight bigger guys, guys who have takedown skills. Takedowns are some of the funnest aspects of grappling for me, always have been. And so I really like to kind of test myself against those guys. Obviously, I didn't stay too long in the stand-up game with him. Javad is about 260 pounds, was an Olympian in judo from Iran. Super high-level takedown skills. I did try to go for a single leg, but it didn't really work all that well. But right here, I kind of, just to give you the mindset that I was in, I'm biding my time. I know that he's got one really, really strong weapon, and that is the Kimura on my left side. He used that to beat my teammate John Toth, and I knew that that's what he was going to be going for because he's an Olympian in judo, and he's a thrower. I knew that his skill set on the ground would not be bad. It would just be limited and really good in just a couple of different areas. And so I felt pretty confident that if I just didn't allow him to get to those areas, that I could eventually find my way into a good position, or even better, a good submission. So here we're just kind of feeling each other out. He's trying to throw my legs by he kicked me in the balls here, or stepped on my balls, or something like that. But luckily, you have adrenaline pumping. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, and he was kind of nice. He didn't kick me again. But I'm really trying to work arm drags here, and just not totally committing to them because I don't want to get myself out of position. But I wanted him to feel a little bit of threatened, so he didn't fully commit to a pass. Being 260 pounds, me being I think at this point probably 180 pounds, just like that's a lot of weight to have to hold off of you in an 8-minute match. So I just, I wanted him to kind of play back just a little bit, eventually kind of luring him into some type of pass that wasn't the best. And so we're working here. He's working from half guard. Uh, he's a strong boy. When he grabbed my head here, I was like, oh, that no good. But he overextended himself. I'm able to get to almost a top position here. And then if we pause, I'm just going to roll this back a little bit. Oh, sorry, guys. If we roll this back just a little bit, I actually really like this half guard position, okay? Because I like to be able to use my inner thigh on this left leg to kind of pendulum them in that direction. If he keeps his head tucked underneath, he's in a really nice forward roll position, right? So here he's keeping tight to me, but he's facilitating like a deep half guard sweep almost. Typically what I would do from the top position here is I would kick this right leg back in this direction and then keep my head kind of tripod on the mat on the far side. That way I'm almost like elongating myself so it's not so easy for me to be rolled. In this case, I'm not sure what he wanted to do. I mean, he was wrapping my neck up, but maybe he felt like there was an opportunity there to pass the guard, maybe even you can't see where his left arm is, but bring that left arm inside of my right leg and then kind of do a back step. But I was keeping pretty tight here. My legs are really thick, and his legs were gigantic. So like all of that kind of sandwich everything together. There wasn't really much space for something like that. So we move on a little bit. So I start to fight this hand, right? So guys, when you're defending the guillotine, you really have to fight this hand, okay? If you don't, all right, if you're not able to get to that hand, it makes everything so much more difficult. You got to use your body, and at this point, my body was underneath him. It was not a good way to try to get out. So I had to really focus on peeling his thumb. Typically in this area here, peel this back, and then fight the fingers, and then push it off. Now he was already in a forward roll in this position, so I immediately thought to myself, I want to get on top. But he came into me, and this is a position that I really, really love, right? Especially having my right leg wrapped around his right arm. Okay, I really enjoy this. Okay, he is thinking, okay, I'm gonna just set him back down probably, but for me, I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking now I have his arm trapped, I've got his head wrapped up, and I'm gonna keep my chest on top of his back, and then eventually my ear to his shoulder blade. So I get here. I think I probably sat down just a bit too early here. I didn't really have my left leg underneath me the way that I would have liked. So he starts to grab my tricep here, which is not necessarily a really good defense, but he starts to come back up now, and I'm hanging off of him. You can see my butt is off of the mat right here, okay? Even if it's like an inch off the mat, he's still carrying all of my weight, okay? But doesn't really care. I didn't really have a good grip with my left hand, and then he was able to pop himself out, okay? Couple things about that position. I wasn't upset that I missed it. I knew that now that I got there once, that I could get there again eventually. So like I was actually, like, okay, well, if I can get there once, I can get there again, and then I can make the necessary adjustments to finish it that next time. So here we are. We keep going. Okay, so I want to say at some point during this match, I don't know if it had already happened yet, Javad had gotten a penalty. And they were calling penalties really, really quickly in this rule set, which I kind of liked. Okay, if you step back a couple of steps, I believe it was part of the rules. If you step back even 2 steps and not engaging, you will be called for a penalty. So if you get called for the first penalty, I believe it's just a penalty against you, which goes into the team. Scoring and all of that stuff. A second penalty will go into team scoring as well. And then I believe a third penalty will put you in a front headlock position, okay? Kind of like a parterre position, but front headlock for this rule set, which, I mean, is phenomenal for my style of jiu-jitsu. So I was, I always wanted to kind of put pressure on him and, as best I could. And, he was playing a little bit more counter offensive. In this position, he was able to open my leg up, work towards passing here. Now, if you notice, I have my right shin. First, it was inside his belly, right? So it was hard for him to pass. He eventually wrapped up my right ankle, keeping it up to my butt, and then passing my guard. But I was able to make frames, hip escape, and then get back into an open guard. And then here again, if you notice, he walked away. Now, this might have been a point of contention, with the other team or with himself. See where this white line is? That's like 1 foot from the edge of the mat. I understand what he was doing, and he was backing up because he wanted to go back to the center because we weren't even necessarily in a complicated position. We were just an open guard. We could have started that from anywhere. But he got penalized, I believe, right here for that. Yeah. Exactly. So he got penalized here, and he was a little confused by it, and I totally understand. But the rule set being what it was, I wasn't going to complain. That would have been his third penalty, I believe, on the match. So it wasn't like it was his first penalty. That was his third penalty in the match. And then now they're going to start us in the front headlock position. Now, another point of contention here probably, and I could be wrong about this, so I'd have to ask Rory from Parabellum. I think he may have been supposed to start on his elbows on the mat, but he started with his hands on the mat, which gave me a much better position. But as any competitor who's watching this knows, any high-level competitor, you have to take all of the advantage they give you. When somebody restarts you back in bounds, you make your grips. If this is in the gi, you connect, you get under the chin, you do whatever you can, because the other person is most likely going to be doing the same thing, trying to defend better and all of that. So I took full advantage of this position. I set up. You have to start with your hands behind the triceps on both sides. You can't start in a front headlock, but you have to be in front, kind of hooking behind the triceps. And then as soon as they say go, I wrapped up an arm-in guillotine grip. And then Javad, being an absolute animal, just picked me all the way up. I mean, I was like, holy shit. As he picked me up, he started to walk me to the edge of the mat. As he was doing that, I'll show you this transition real quick one more time. My left hand is around his arm. As he's walking me, his shoulder drops. And then I switch my grip to no arm guillotine, doing it like a Marcelo Garcia style, where I bend my wrist over, bringing my forearm over the top of his back. And, at this point, I felt like I had this. This was, this is a foregone conclusion. But then I realized here we are going off of the edge of the mat, and then we eventually fall off. Now, things got a little bit heated here, and, I had a lot of adrenaline going. I thought he was trying to throw me off on purpose. It turns out that was not the case. He couldn't see. And then, I recreated that position a bunch of times with different training partners of mine in here. It's really hard to know where you're going when you're getting choked like that, especially in that position. And, he actually kept me safe. I didn't fall on the ground. I just, he dropped, fell on his feet from 4 feet high, and then I was still on top of him. I scraped up my knee a little bit on the mat, but not a big deal. Just like a little heated exchange. But it made the match like a lot more exciting. And eventually, he didn't tap, but he got DQ'd because he fled the mat while in a submission. But honestly, that was it was a foregone conclusion at that point. But if you guys see, I like this match a lot because I missed my guillotine the first time, but then when I had it again, when I was able to get to a similar position, I was able to make the adjustments to then finish it. This is my first breakdown of one of my matches. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you guys want to see something different, I'm probably gonna add some more features to it so you guys can see what I'm kind of highlighting a little bit better, and then we go from there. Thanks, guys.